everyone! Welcome to the channel dedicated to sharing the profound insights and wisdom of Andromedan contactee Alex Collier. If you're new here, you're in for a journey that expands your mind and consciousness, bringing you closer to understanding the messages from the fifth density Andromedan extraterrestrials. For those returning, we're grateful for your continued support. Before we dive into today's enlightening content, we have a small favor to ask. If you find value in the knowledge shared in this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your engagement helps us amplify Alex Collier's message, allowing us to reach a larger audience with these vital messages. We'd also love to hear from you, so please engage with the comments below. Whether it's a question, your thoughts, or even just an emoji for the sake of engagement, every comment counts. We read every single comment, and your feedback is incredibly valuable to us. Additionally, if you'd like to support us further, consider giving a super thanks tip by clicking the heart with the $sign. This small gesture allows us to continue bringing you more of Alex's messages, unfiltered and directly from his lifelong experiences with the Andromedans. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video.
Hello, fellow Earthlings. Welcome to number 84 of our webinars. I'm Alex, and thank you for being here. I want to start off by saying happy birthday, America. To piss off all my neighbors, I flew the Betsy Ross flag over my garage for 3 days, and I definitely got some dirty looks. I could care less, but it worked like a charm. Like I was saying, I flew the Betsy Ross flag, 13 stars, over my garage this week just to piss off all my neighbors, because they don't get it. They just don't get it. They just don't appreciate freedom. They say they do, but they really don't. And anyway, so there was a lot going on this week, as you know, here, especially here in the States. For those of you who don't know, a little brief history, it was Thomas Paine who first coined the phrase, the United States of America, and it stuck. And but he's not really given a lot of credit for that, but it was Thomas Paine who said it first. Also, the founding fathers knew that slavery was bad. They knew it was wrong. And they tried to abolish it. In fact, if you were to look up Thomas Jefferson's original Declaration of Independence that he wrote, without all the corrections, you would see that he puts in there that slavery is abolished. Unfortunately, the slave states of Georgia, South Carolina, and at the time North Carolina, they weren't happy about that, and they threatened to leave the Articles of Confederation, which was in place at the time. And well, actually, it was a little bit after that. I take that back. They threatened to leave and not form a union because they wanted slavery. And that argument went on back and forth until the signing of the actual Constitution of the United States. And then they decided, again, it was talked about abolishing slavery, and again, these southern states refused. They again threatened to withdraw from the Union. So it was decided that they would revisit it 20 years later. Unfortunately, 20 years later, James Madison, who was president, decided that he was going to declare war on Great Britain in Canada and sent an army to Canada where we got our asses kicked, and that really pissed off the British. So they came down the East Coast and invaded Chesapeake Bay, where many of them got off. They came in, they went into Washington, D.C., they burned down several buildings, including burned and gutted the White House. They were, in fact, run out of Washington. They were only there for 24 or 26 hours. They were literally run out of Washington due to a storm. And then, of course, we have the Fort McHenry, which is where the Star Spangled Banner was written. And that was written, of course, by Francis Scott Key, who was there assisting another lawyer. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer. He was there assisting another lawyer in trying to make an agreement to swap prisoners. And unfortunately, that took a great deal of time. They were stuck on British ships, and our flag remained standing, and this is where he wrote the lyric. So not a lot is said about Francis Scott Key. He was apparently quite an attorney. When Andrew Jackson was president, one of his subordinate colonels, Sam Houston, got into trouble in Washington, D.C., where he got into an argument on the street with a congressman and beat the snot out of him and left him on the sidewalk. It's a true story. So the Congress decided they were going to prosecute Sam Houston, and the only person he had in town that he could actually still talk to at that point was President Andrew Jackson. And so Andrew Jackson bought him a suit so he could present himself in front of Congress. And he hired an attorney to represent him in front of Congress, and that was Francis Scott Key. After the initial trials and things that went on there, Sam Houston decided he was leaving, and he went to what is now known as the state of Texas, where the rest is history. So, America has a very, very colorful history. It's unfortunate that they don't really teach a lot of it any longer, because many of the founding fathers and those who deserve an honorable mention were quite the colorful characters, to say the least. But enough about that. I also wanted to say that if you at all get a chance, maybe it'll show up on YouTube here in the next few days. I thought that the fireworks display in DC was good until the cloud cover came in. But I would like to bring to your attention that on MSNBC, they had the Macy's Fireworks Spectacular right there in New York and right next to the Brooklyn Bridge. If you get a chance to see that on YouTube, and hopefully they'll post it, it was absolutely magnificent. I have never seen anything like it. Using the Brooklyn Bridge for the fireworks display, as well as barges in the harbor there, it was really quite spectacular with the music and everything. And I realize that those of you outside the country wouldn't be excited about that, but here in the States, it's absolutely worth a look-see. Okay, listen. During the president's 4th of July speech, when we had aircraft flying in, et cetera, there also appears to have been some TR-4s and TR-3s. And when this is over, I want to thank Will and Callista for sending these pictures to me. There were our space fleet was sitting in the sky watching the festivities. So we're going to talk about that here about that before we get until we get into the meat and potatoes here of the webinar. I think we can all agree that disclosure is about to happen, and they're rolling it out. And instead of it being alternative, it's going to become mainstream, which is both a blessing and a curse. because you know they're going to have a very specific narrative, a very controlling narrative, and probably a very misleading narrative. And it's going to be in the hands of the puppeteers, the fake news, etc. So it's very, very difficult to know exactly how this is all going to roll out. But nonetheless, it's going to roll out. Now, for those of you who have known me for years, I was in aerospace. I dealt with all branches of the military on many different levels, and I get periodicals because I try to stay abreast of technology. This I just got in the mail, okay, and it's a free subscription, and it's military and aerospace. Now, if you look here, down here, what it says is technology of the U.S. Space Force. Okay, so it's begun. It's officially begun. Now, how this works, and I would refer you to the late Colonel Corso's book, The Day After Roswell, and those researchers who have helped him compile that and all of that work. Essentially how this works is, what we're going to get first is the end-of-life technology that the Space Force has been using. And we're probably going to be looking at stuff in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But to us here, it's going to appear to be 100 years more advanced than anything we're using commercially. All right? And that's what's going to be rolled out first. As long as it's been demilitarized and it can't be used for any very serious military applications, that's what they're going to roll out to us. That's how this works. And of course, it'll be new and great and very exciting for us and jaw-dropping, but it's completely obsolete technology to our real Space Force, because they're about 400 years more advanced than anything commercially, and some of the technology may be even more advanced than that. So, but that's how this works, and the actual real nitty-gritty is spelled out in Corso's book about how the technology is transferred to contractors, prime contractors, manufacturers. They'll put it through a little bit of so many years of R&D, and they just do that to make it their own and to create extra money for themselves, and then they begin to roll it out. But we'll be hearing about it soon. It's time for some of this to come out, and of course it won't roll out as quickly as we'd like. So as this goes, so does technology, okay? So just know that there's an incredible amount of movement. On the currency reset stage, there have been an awful lot of hype about stuff was supposed to happen yesterday. I don't know who starts this stuff, but anyway, here's what I've heard. On June 24th, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, it's on their webpage, was posted by the director of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe a notification that they are going to be revaluing a new Zimbabwe currency, and it will be 1-to-1 with the US dollar. It didn't say USD, it gave the US and then a dollar sign. So that leaves it open for either the reserve note, Federal Reserve note, or the USN. Okay? They said it would be 1-to-1. Also, I think it was Tuesday, the Federal Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and the government shocked all of its citizens by outlawing all foreign currency in their country. That means that they're in the process now of adding real value to their currency. and they can do it. They're an incredibly wealthy nation with natural minerals. So that's very promising. We also heard Wednesday night that the Iraqi dinar, a new rate was posted live in their Gazette at $7.71. So they literally have 3 to 4 days before it has to go live. So we should know either this weekend or Monday if that in fact has occurred. I know that they're desperately trying to get things worked out here in the States to launch the new currency. But as you can imagine, the corruption, I think the level of corruption has caught everybody by surprise. And just how deep it goes. And how willing everyone is, how willing so many have been to sell their soul. So it's taking a little while to remove the riffraff and to arrest and identify the saboteurs, but it's happening. It's happening. And, it's one day at a time. Literally, that's what it is. It's just one day at a time. But there is movement. There is a lot of progress. People are working it 24/7. Okay? Now, to talk about the symbiotic relationship that we have, not only with each other, but with other dimensions, I'm going to share for the first time ever my last day with Visayas, because that sets this up, okay? It was late spring of 1998. I found out in September of '98 that Visayas had crossed over. I don't know the date. It didn't matter, but that he had left their physicality. And I've talked about him, off and on through the years, about my perceptions of who he was and how he was and so on. And, I called him, I've said this publicly, he was a little cranky at times. Well, the last time that I was with him in M. Mornay, we were somewhere outside the presence of the moon, and he was in a way. He was a little grumpy, okay? And so, as I have learned over the years, when he's kind of like that, I just give him some space. So what I did was I orbited Mornay for most of the contact. And, I was thinking about Visayas the whole time because I would watch him. He was fascinating, as all of the A's are. And as I was thinking about him, he would look over and he would just look at me, and there would be a very slight smile on him, just a very slight smile. Now, it isn't that he was a bad guy. He wasn't that at all. It's just he was already looking ahead to his next adventure. I am sure he knew he was crossing over. And for all I know, he was planning his exit himself. And I had also known that one of the reasons he was asked to mentor Mornay and others in the process of not only contacting people here on Earth, but setting up protocols for contact and building a relationship and laying in place groundwork for mentorship is because he had done this before. Now, as I have said before, he was 4,300 years old in our time, which, made him a ridiculous age in their time. And I think he felt like he had done everything he was supposed to do in that particular life, and he was looking to start over. Now, in previous lives, he did not have them all in Andromeda. My understanding is he had other lifetimes in other races where he did exactly the same thing. He would be part of a contact team. He would set up protocols, set up relationships, build relationships, and to put in place bridges for mentorship. That was sort of his specialty. All right? And that's what he had done in previous lives as being part of other civilizations. In other words, other ET races. And then he had come back and was born again into the Andromedan civilization. I bring this up because he knew all of this, and so did the Yays, and so did the other civilizations that met him. They knew who he was and what he was about because his memory wasn't wiped. Okay, and we'll come back to that a little bit later here. So, at one point during this visit, he is kind of looking out at a monitor. I can't say it was a window because the ship didn't have windows, but they had this ability to make the whole wall like glass, and now you're looking out into space. But it was actually material, okay, organic material that would become see-through at a command or a switch or something. And he was there and he was looking out, and he is talking to Mornay. Now, they're fifth density. So when they telepathically commute with each other, I normally cannot hear that unless they want to include me in the conversation. And Visayas did that. I heard his conversation with Mornay, and he was talking about a conversation and a mentoring protocol gathering that he had with beings from sixth density. Now, I have shared with you that they were being mentored by other stellar groups that are sixth dimensional. Okay, that's who was mentoring them. I don't know the name of the race or where they were from. That has not been shared with me. But he was discussing this with M. And at one point, he says to M that this whole time he felt like we, meaning the group that he was a part of, that we were all addressing ourselves. That when we went to these meetings, we were actually talking to ourselves. In other words, what he was implying was that him and the others in his group that were getting the teachings and mentoring to bring back and share with the rest of the civilization, that they were actually them in the future. You see, that's the implication here. Or them present time in another dimensional body. Because the times, even though everything is happening simultaneously, the timelines are not at all in sync. Okay? And it's really hard to describe, especially with the programming and the constant repetitive reality that we've been living with here. But those people in sixth could have been so far into the future that if the A's really understood what their timeline was, they maybe couldn't relate. I don't know because I don't know enough about who that race was. But nonetheless, he was having this conversation, and that he felt that he was talking to himself in that other dimension. Okay? In other words, they would come down and meet them here in fifth, or they would meet them in fifth, I'm sorry. So they would have these conversations, these teachings, etc. And Theseus was sharing this with M for the first time, that he felt like he was actually meeting himself and was being taught by himself. And apparently the others with him felt the same way. And I can remember Mornay being very excited. There was a lot of the conversation I couldn't get because it was so fast. It was just like, boom. He would say all this stuff and it would be that quick. So I couldn't get it. My brain doesn't process information that quickly. But nonetheless, he was very excited, and he thanked Theseus for including me in the conversation. So M was drawn away by someone of his crew, at which point Theseus turns around and I am standing about 15 feet from him. Behind the chair, behind the control panels, there was this counter where I would lean against a lot of the time. It was like a place that I was very comfortable. I was out of the way, and I always felt really safe there. Plus, it vibrated. Okay, this countertop vibrated, and it always felt really good for me. It was like my body became lighter as long as I was leaning against this thing, this countertop. And I remember he turned and he just looked at me and he smiled and he goes, "Thank you for getting it." And I knew exactly what he was talking about. I knew that he was in a completely different space, and I left him alone. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the whole time I knew him, it wasn't until that very last time, that very last moment, where I totally felt like he finally totally let me in. You know, we had a moment. We had a moment, and I've never shared that, ever. But it's relative to what we're going to be talking about, because everyone's unique, you know. We all have our things. We all have our idiosyncrasies. You know, in Italian they say gazzas. We all got our gazzas. You know, our issues. And, you know, it's obvious it doesn't matter the dimension. It doesn't. We all have our things. You know, it's... I think that life in the physical, regardless of the dimensions, is like taking flying lessons. when you decide to take the leap, to take the jump into physicality, you're either going to land on your feet or you're going to learn how to fly. Okay? But that's what it is. So, getting back to our brains. Some of us can see 5 dimensions. Some of us can see 6, 7, or 8. Some of us can see 9, 10, and 11. Maybe some of us can see 12. I don't know about that. We know that with near-death experiences, people come back and they're changed. They have a completely different perspective of life. Many of them, or a percentage of them, come back with altered DNA. Now, let me explain to you about that. What alters the DNA? What changes the DNA? It's your soul's template. It's the template of your soul. And that template is multidimensional layers of experience. Now, I don't know that everyone has had experience with 11 dimensions. It could be that, based on the level of your holographic vision, whether it's 5, 6, 7, or 8, maybe that is that's your body of soul work to this point, is those dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make this simple for myself. And I'm just going to say that since we're going to 5 at some point, or humanity's destiny is to go to 5, I'm just going to say that I'm just going to refer to this conversation as the holograph of the template of the soul is at 5. Okay, even though for many of us it's higher. Okay, based on our body of work, our soul works. Now, the soul work consists of life experience. Not all of it has to be into the physical, where you are not only interacting with other beings, but you are also dealing in grappling with questions, the ability to use consciousness to create, the ability to use and understand emotion, the ability to see and understand compassion, the ability to see and understand creation as a whole. And what I mean by that is all the dimensions all at once. Very, very challenging stuff. Very worthy work. Now, the example I gave of Visayas, I feel like I am visiting and talking to myself. And he's referring to 6th density. And it's probably true. It's probably absolutely true because the others in his crew felt exactly the same way, that they were visiting and talking with themselves ahead in a future time. That was coming back to teach them. Okay? So let's use that template. You are all multidimensional. Now, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another way to think it. And what I'm talking about here is in your meditations, in your prayer work, in your dream time, especially in your dream time. Because when you're in your dreaming body and you know that you're out and you're traveling, or you are in a very, very deep meditation and you have moved outside your ego, then you have a direct line to your higher bodies that are in other dimensional realms. We all are told we have guardian angels, spiritual guides. Now, some of those could be loved ones who have passed, who were very highly evolved and you didn't know it because you were a kid or you weren't paying attention or you weren't evolved. But one thing is for sure is that one of those guides is yourself in a future time. Now, you have to understand that any aspect of you that is not here right now in third density is a future self. That's a fact. It's a future self. And that future self is you in the future. And that future self has an obligation to assist you and to work with you to make sure that you get from here, point E, Earth, to point F, future. You see? Because it's already there, so it's happened. The bridge has already been complete. You are here talking to a future self of yourself. That self has to help you guide you to that place. It has answers. It has information. The trick here is to put yourself there, to imagine yourself there, in that space with yourself, or attached, or seeing yourself now through the vision of your future self. Because it doesn't matter whether it's 5th, 6th, or 7th. All those aspects of yourself are in fact there. They all got there because of the work you do right here and now. Do you understand? It's just like the Earth. She's already got a spot and is forming a body in 5th density. It's already there. And how she's going to get there is the work that she's doing right here, right now. Okay? It has to be taken seriously. That doesn't mean it's all business. You can love yourself and have fun. You can love yourself and be serious. You can better yourself and be serious and have fun. It's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of knowing what you want and implementing your guidance, your own inner guidance. That which you get from spirit, yourself, or that which you get in your heart, which is creator, from great spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever words you want to use, that makes you sing inside, that makes you vibrate at your highest level. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you know, that you absolutely know that you're already there. You may not be there physically, but you're already there. The greatest part of you is already there. And that template, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 density, whatever it is, those templates, those life experiences those memories are already inside of you. Because when you took the form or you walked in, okay, there's two ways to look at this. When you were born into the body and attached, or you walked in, your template came over the physical body when you joined and became at one with it. Which is why your brain gives you the knowledge to know, or shows you the fact that you're a higher spiritual being. That didn't come from the Anunnaki. That didn't come from Orion. That didn't come from Dracona. That didn't come from Pleiades. Didn't come from Alpha Cygnus or Cygnus Alpha. Okay, it didn't come from Sirius. That physical stuff didn't come from them. That template that lays over and shows you the depth of your experience and your level of work, spiritual work. That's what they've uncovered with the holographic CAT scans of your brain. Now, for those who are fifth, that's an outstanding achievement. You know, you're here and you're working it, trying to figure some things out. Those of us in sixth, exactly the same thing. Those of us from 7 or 8 or 9, exactly the same thing. The common thread we all have, though, is that we consciously don't have access to that information. Okay, because we're told we have a brain wipe or a mind wipe. It has been suggested, or it was suggested a while back, that if we began to think as if that barrier wasn't there at all, in other words, we just erased completely the belief system that we can't remember who we were, that information would begin to flow. The knowledge, the skill set knowledge that each of us has would begin to come down to us here physically now in the present time. Because the energies are supporting it. The energy of the galaxy, the energy of the universe, the Schumann resonance, the awakening of mankind. Okay, the jump of the Earth's frequency, all of it. If you look at the whole body of it, it's all lifting up. It's all rising. In other words, it's pushing us towards 4th and 5th density. It's supporting us to do this work. That's what it's about. And we have to be open to what we see. We can't be limited to our jobs and the philosophical beliefs that we hear on the planet Earth, because it's this much. What we have on Earth, the knowledge we have on this planet, is this much compared to the rest of the universe or the galaxy. It's an infinitesimal grain of sand. There's so much more. And we have to open up ourselves to it. We have to know it's there. We have to begin to allow ourselves to imagine what it is. Because you're connected to those elements and parts of yourself regardless of time and space. You are already connected to it. You are already connected to all that knowledge through your own soul template and who you are, the body of work you've done spiritually from whenever the beginning was. That's who you are. Not this little itty bitty little person here on the planet. That's who none of us are. Oh my God, what a con job this whole thing has been. Shit. You know? You take a soul as big as a galaxy and you put them in an itty bitty little box. And you convince him that's who he is. This itty bitty little box. Woo, shit. You know? As smart as Visayas was, in him sharing with Mornay that he felt like he had been talking to himself, or he was talking to himself, was quite an acknowledgement that for all he knew, he was prepared to go to the next level and learn some more. And I can tell you that that piece of information was something that maybe Mornay it had never dawned on him that could be a possibility. So you see, as much as they know, they're still growing and learning as well. Those on 6, as much as they know, they are still growing and learning as well, etc., etc., etc. And that's no different from us. That is going to be no different for us. The one exception that we do have, and this has been mentioned so many times through so many of the years, through so many contacts, is our range of emotions. Is it possible that all of us came down here or chose this particular time and physical form to experience the range of emotions? Is it possible that that's what drew us down here? Is it that and to assist the earth? Is it the idea that the only way to free earth from this dark energy was with the use of our emotion, of compassion and love and joy? Is it possible that we came in here with the intent of using that energy of emotion to free the earth? You see, there are multiple possibilities here and probabilities. Or is it that we decided that we were going to come in here and we were going to plunge ourselves into this situation and that we were going to all free ourselves by using our emotion? Or am I completely off base? You know, as much as the Yeas have shared, they've never given me my answers, which has pissed me off a lot. And I've shared that. You know, I've shared that. It's pissed me off. Because it meant I had to work harder, you know, I had to work longer. I had to dig deeper. Sometimes that's very painful. And sometimes, you know, even though you do it, you don't appreciate the rewards till later. But my point is that there's momentum now. And there is no question things are changing here. It is not doom and gloom. It just isn't. Okay, but everything changes. Nothing ever remains the same. And as we bring in more light, as more frequency fills our space, ideas, belief systems, habits, hatred, all those energies that block frequency have to be removed. Now they can disintegrate, they can be blown out, but typically what happens is that they are exposed, and once everybody agrees that, well, that's fucked up, it goes away because we change our minds about it. Or we acknowledge that it's an issue, a problem, and we all agree that it's time to let that go, to let it move on, to forgive it, etc. And let it go. And then it changes, it evaporates, because it no longer holds power over us. That's a lot of what's going on right now. And we're going to have more weather. I've told you that. I mean, yesterday, just here in Colorado, in the mountains, there is still so much snow that people are skiing and snowboarding in shorts and bikinis. Down here, it was 81 degrees, and out of nowhere, we got nickel to golf ball size hail. And I mean, it came through here. Then it was thundering and lightning and rain. We had all the weather here yesterday. It was quite remarkable. So, we're going to get weather. Other areas are going to get weather. Things are changing. It may seem that the planet's atmosphere is out of balance. I beg to differ. I really do. I think that the universe is all about self-correcting. And that's what's going on. We're beginning to see corrections, self-correcting, because there's now a clear focus on evolution, evolvement, spiritual maturity. I want you to know that I and others who talked about Nibiru are right. It is here. What we didn't realize is that the entire star system, including the dwarf star, were under intelligent control. But it is here. And it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. I think for the most part that this is a good thing. Because they're not being left on their own. There are others here that are assisting and watching and adding input into assisting and mentoring humanity through these next stages of our development. The first major stage is going to be correcting false belief systems. That's going to be a biggie. And how that unfolds is paramount to how we adjust to the other lessons that will be coming, such as um, embracing our true spiritual selves and letting go of being or believing ourselves to be sinners and less than. Letting go of hate, realizing that hate is just a projection of our own self-hate and self-loathing, which absolutely has no basis in truth whatsoever. They're all belief systems that we've all clung to or hold on to that that we believed others said about us. Those are big ones. Those are really, really big ones. To unconditionally love oneself is massive, because if you don't, then you are already blocking your highest good. And most of us don't know that. We don't understand that because of the programming and conditioning. And I can honestly tell you, as I've been telling you for years, and so have other speakers, been telling you for many years now, that we were screwed with. And that is going to be corrected and is being corrected as we speak. The level of compassion and love that we can feel is profound. So profound that higher dimensional civilizations have made the trip back in time to observe us, to watch us, to learn from us. And we can't underestimate that in any way, shape, or form, because that's a huge investment for any civilization, whether it's third density, fourth, fifth, sixth, beyond, to make. So that investment clearly shows that there is something about us that is of enormous value to these cultures, to these space races, these star nations. And we should not in any way belittle that. We should embrace that, the fact that as little as we might think about ourselves, they clearly don't. They clearly don't. So I have no doubt that those civilizations that are here watching, that have come back in their time to watch us, to study us, to maybe contact so many of the people here on Earth, I have no doubt that in many cases, some of those are probably your future selves. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Because that means we definitely are getting help. We definitely are getting assistance. The mentoring is already then on an individual level. Okay? You've got your own tutors, um, We just need to open up our perspective that in our everyday life to include all of that in our day-to-day life, to acknowledge that those present and future selves of us are here and now with us individually every moment of every day. And build that bridge, build that spiritual link, that bridge, that consciousness link, okay, through the barriers, through the dimensions, to connect to ourselves and draw that higher frequency to ourselves. Because there is no limit to ourselves. There really isn't. I mean, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. Nothing. As long as we use this and we use it and we intend in integrity from the heart. You know, I love to drive. I love road trips. Because I do my best thinking then. And it's easy to rehash and just to kind of go into that zone, you know? And the people that I've known this lifetime, the mistakes that I've made this lifetime, the blessings that I've had in this lifetime, the friendships that I've built in this lifetime, my relationship with Morene and Faseus, my connection to Source never ceases to awe me. It never does. Because in those moments of clarity, you see how it all fits together, you know. It all comes together and you can see it. You can see the holograph I can see the holograph of my body of work. And I'm proud of it. It took a long time to look at the mistakes, but I understand them now, most of them anyway. But I understand them. I see how they fit into my body of work for growth, for forcing me into a place that would then ricochet me to a higher consciousness, to a better place. You know, it's not about getting knocked down. It's about how many times you keep getting up. And every time you get up, you get stronger and you get higher. Guys, we got it going on. We really do. There's a lot of really good things coming. It may not look like it. And I know that if you watch the news, you watch TV, it's a shit show. Oh my God. I know that, you know. Here in America, what do the kids watch? American Horror Show? Well, that's CNN and MSNBC for sure. But it isn't real. It isn't real. It's a narrative that they are creating that isn't real. It's not about reality at all. So, we're love. We're good. I know we're gonna make it. Get some really promising things I think are about to happen. What time we got here? I went a little bit over. JP, what do you think? Maybe, does anybody have any questions whatsoever?
Hello. Is this on?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a few questions. Here's one from Dan. Greetings, Alex. Have the A's ever shared information regarding the Bermuda Triangle and where people end up going if they happen to disappear mysteriously? I have heard stories of people transferring to inner Earth. Thank you.
No, I've never asked those questions. Sorry for such a short answer, but that's what it is.
From Freddie. Hi, Alex. Does the chronovisor exist? And if so, who has access to it?
The chronovisor. I have absolutely no idea what that is.
That's supposed to be some, it's like gimbal rings that spin around each other and very fast, and they see different times and spaces. And if you've got two, you can hear things as well. So you can look into a different time.
Okay, I don't know that name or that specific verbiage for it, but I do know that technology like that does in fact exist. I know many extraterrestrial races or civilizations have it. They're very, very careful with it. There are very strict protocols in how to use technology like that. Because if you step out of line, someone knows about it because you go from point A to point B and everybody knows because of the symbiotic relationship of all things. They may not know it immediately, but eventually everyone knows. Because regardless, information doesn't transfer instantly. That much I do know, especially on different dimensions. But nonetheless, it is shared and it does travel. So I would say yes, that technology does exist. I don't know about it being used here on Earth. There is and has been technology that was used that could alter events within a 3-day window. But my understanding is that technology's been shut down because it was being abused here on Earth. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Because I don't want any imperial entanglements, if you know what I mean. Okay? Because there's a new movement here to control the narrative. And they're very, very serious about it. So, if it's not integrity, it will collapse. That's for sure. And sometimes we just have to let those things occur until they do collapse. And that's what that is. Okay, next question.
From Mason. Do you think that the recent earthquake in California was the white hats battling with underground regressive reptilians' nests? All the best. And also, earthquake in the USA and Mexico area, is that because of Nibiru? So are the earthquakes because of Nibiru or because of the white hats, or what?
My crystal ball is in the shop. They're having trouble with getting parts for it. Now, as far as the 6.4 earthquake out there in Ridgecrest, I think it is, that particular earthquake actually occurred right underneath the naval base at China Lake. That is a naval facility where they test a lot of aircraft and other things. And it's a very, very large area in the middle of nowhere. when I was in aerospace, I sold lasers out there that, to my knowledge, are still being used. There are runways that are not on the surface, and there are hangars that are not on the surface either. So what triggered it? I wasn't aware that there was a regressive influence there per se. In fact, my regard for the Navy is extremely high as far as their integrity and their loyalty. It's extremely high. And so would my confidence level be that they would do the right thing. It could be they were expanding an underground facility and triggered it. It's difficult to say. I don't know. Now, as far as the earthquakes on the California-Mexican border, I'm not exactly sure where that was. But I have spoken of many, many years ago that under Mexicali, hundreds of miles underneath Mexicali, there is a supervolcano. And that supervolcano comes up just below the surface, and it's dropping lava into very old lava tunnels. And that is the source of Yellowstone's supervolcano, is the supervolcano underneath Mexicali. So could it be that there's a lot of activity there? Could be. I was always told that Yellowstone would not go off. That what would happen is that the San Andreas would give, and the lava would then change direction and would go up the San Andreas and then into the ocean. But it would push the San Andreas 16 to 25 feet. Now, of course, none of this is written in stone because there could always be intervention. But at the time I spoke about this or asked about this, that's what I was told, that it would move everything west of the San Andreas 16 to 25 feet into the water. That's significant. And it would change the course of the lava, and because then from there it would go right to the Pacific. And Yellowstone, the pressure on Yellowstone would completely subside. I've never heard anything other than that from the A's, that was the probable scenario. But that was the scenario. Is it possible to redirect the lava flow without moving the San Andreas? Yes. Yes, I think it is possible. Will it happen? I just simply don't know. The thing about probabilities is that one change could alter an entire scenario, no matter how small. You know, and many of us have learned that over the years in talking about future events and making predictions. Many of us have forgot that everything is a probability. So, lessons learned or bridges burned. Okay. Next question.
Okay. Now, let's have a look. There's quite a few questions. I'm trying to find some here. Why? There's loads. Why do the dhows avoid sunlight? Is it all sunlight or just ours?
It's the infrared. It's the infrared. They can't stand infrared light. It cooks them from the inside. You know? You gotta remember, they're reptilian plant-based, but they're also hybrid. Okay? 99% of them are now hybrids. It's not original equipment. Okay, it's not original equipment. So, the thing about a life form like that is that when you hold soul, when a life form holds soul, it absorbs light. It transmutes light into energy, into spiritual consciousness, into a connection with Source. To copy that, to absolutely copy that, is nearly impossible. Because you can't copy soul. You can't recreate soul. Even AI isn't soul. And it will never be soul. Okay? It won't survive death. Only soul does that. Which brings me to a point of something I wanted to mention, and that is that dolphins, all dolphins, can see 9 dimensions. I don't know about whales, but dolphins, they can already see 9 dimensions. So they're wicked smart. There's a lot they can teach us. Anyway, okay, JP, another question. I think we know.
Okay. Now, this is from Lauren. The Anunnaki created us by combining their DNA with the primate race. Do you know how the Draconians created the primates?
Okay, let's that is what history has told us by altering the primates. There were other races, species of human here already. Now, yes, there were altercations. It wasn't just to the primates, but it was also to the humans that were here, that were left behind. Human existence, human civilization, humanity, which encompasses many different civilizations and many different races that may or may not look like each other, but are nonetheless human, have existed on Earth for over 22 million years at one period or another. Okay? Now, the Anunnaki's history here goes back roughly 470,000 years. There were other civilizations and races here prior to that. Earth was an outpost. So, there is no short answer to that. And as far as the Draconians, where we value money on this planet, other races value life, DNA, the ability to create life, to alter life, to manipulate life, to create something that wasn't anywhere before. That's their wealth. We see a lot of that tinkering beginning to go on now. At least publicly they're talking about it. splicing DNA and creating clones, growing body parts. There is a place for some of that. If it's here and being used with absolute integrity, unfortunately, that's not the case, because there is a very, very dark element that's been here for thousands of years, that is all about creating pain and hurt and power for themselves. And that also is a very complicated answer that 7 minutes I couldn't do any justice. But the Anunnaki, their civilization's been around a very, very long time. Even though their interaction with Earth is limited to less than half a million years. The Draconian race has been around for millions of years. It came from other parts of our universe. And I've already shared in previous notes that no one in our galaxy actually knows for sure where they came from. But they had a great deal of technology already, and their philosophical and technological beliefs were fully formed when they were brought here. So they came with a great deal of technology and knowledge about how to manipulate life forms, DNA, genetics. The Anunnaki, like all the other civilizations, have learned through trial and error. Okay? So just like we learn by trial and error. The idea is not to get into something, into a specific technology where it puts you in over your head, that you never just leap into using or developing a technology that will in the end control you, like AI, for an example. That's something where we could absolutely get ourselves into a whole lot of trouble, because we don't really truly understand it. And to truly understand it, you have to absolutely think holographically. And we don't. Some of us do, but not a majority of us. So, and the more we connect with our higher selves and our higher bodies in 4, 5, 6, 7 density, we begin to draw that holographic information and template down to us here. Because when you can see something holographically, you see it all. You not only see what it is, but you see the probabilities that surround it in every decision that you make, which eliminates 90% of all the bad choices, you see. And that would be a really good thing, for all of us, to be able to eliminate 90% of all the bad choices and when we make a decision. And generally those choices come about because of information we don't have, that we can't add to the equation because we don't know they exist. So, that's the benefit of seeing things holographically. All right, JP, one more question? Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from Ilaria. Does Nibiru look like Jupiter?
Okay. Let's define Nibiru. Are we talking about the dwarf star, Hercules, or are we talking about the planets that are inhabited, which include the moons? What are we exactly talking about? Because the short answer to that is it could. It definitely could be mistaken for something similar to Jupiter. It definitely could. Because, what we see of Jupiter is just a gassy atmosphere. We don't see the surface. Not at all. Just like Saturn, we just see the upper gaseous atmosphere, or what we perceive as gaseous. We don't actually see the surface. Okay? And there are more than likely good reasons for that. With everything going on, we got to be careful. Okay, JP, one more question. I got 3 minutes.
All right. Is there any possibility that this audience, or those of us who can, to visit Alex at some hotel with the idea that we could attend a live seminar?
A live seminar. You mean with me?
Of course.
It's funny you mentioned that. I have accepted a speaking engagement in Yelm, Washington, at the end of August this year. I guess in Yelm, Washington, they have a UFO thing. And I've been invited. I was invited last year, and I didn't do it. But this year I decided I would do it. But I would be open to doing something like that if, as long as more than 4 or 5 people showed up, I would be open to that, to doing something. I don't like, in the 90s I did the dog and pony show, and it was an absolute circus. And I'm not interested in circuses. I'm not interested in drama. If we did this, I would want it to be very low key, and we all sit down and we share and we have a conversation, a mutual conversation. I would be good with that. I don't do a lot of the big live things. Only because I've not had good experiences. There were people who were promoting me for their own, this is back in the 90s and early 2000s, that would promote me as being at a show. I was coming to a show to draw people in. And I was the only one who wasn't invited to it. They were just using my name. So it gave me a bad taste in my mouth for a lot of these promoters. But I know these folks who are doing this thing, and I've had nothing but positive experiences up there in Yelm. So I've agreed to do it. So we'll see. I'll when I get the flyer for it, I'll send it to James to put up. But if somebody wants to put something together, somewhere maybe um, that works for as many people as possible, I'd be open to it. I would absolutely be open to it. And, let me know what you think, if you even want to do it, okay? Guys, my time's up. It's all good, guys. It's all good. It really is. There's so much to be thankful for. There's so much to look forward to. As long as we keep communicating with each other and talking to each other, and sift the bullshit through the trees, we'll all be okay. We really will.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it insightful, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future updates. If you have any questions relating to today's video, please also leave them below. We read all the comments and take on board what our viewers have to say about Alex Collier's work. Remember, your support helps Alex Collier's knowledge and the messages from the Andromedans reach more people. If you'd like to support the channel even more, you can give us a super thanks tip by clicking the heart icon with a $sign. It really helps our team bring you more content. Also, be sure to visit alexcollier.org to sign up for our regular email newsletter. It's the best way to stay updated with the latest news, exclusive content, and upcoming live webinars. For the latest insights from Alex Collier, check out alexcollier.live. And if you want to explore over 250 past webinars, head over to alexcollier.tv. Thank you for being a part of this journey and supporting Alex Collier's work. We couldn't do this without you, and we're genuinely grateful for your support. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the vast mysteries of our universe. If you would like to see the Andromedan contactee Alex Collier live via video stream, we hold a live online seminar every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information on upcoming live webinars, please visit alexcollier.org.